Once upon a time in Sweden, the biggest, meanest warship around set sail on its maiden voyage, but it would never see battle. Instead, its destiny was far more unusual, as our science editor, Michael Gillen, tells us now.
The Vasa. 360 years ago, it was at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. Today, it's the most popular attraction in all of Scandinavia. It all started in 1625, when Sweden's King Gustav Adolf ordered his engineers to build a warship. One so invincible, so unsinkable, it would turn Sweden into a military superpower overnight. That was the idea, but when the day actually came to launch the ship, things didn't go exactly as the king had intended.
It was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, but no sooner had the Vasa set sail than a slight breeze made her lean to the left. The Vasa capsized right out there, taking about 50 people with her. She never made it out of the harbor.
The Vasa stayed buried underwater until 1961, when Swedish engineers hauled it to the surface. It was like dredging up old memories, but after all these years, pain and embarrassment gave way to celebration.
This is a unique museum, the only 17th century ship that has been identified and preserved.
Everything, including the skeleton of a sailor, was incredibly well preserved, thanks to a protective blanket of mud and the low acidity of the Baltic Sea.
We found a bottle of the world's oldest rum.
Really?
And we have a little sample here. It's been analyzed, and it's 33% alcohol. And
how does it smell?
It smells very good. It smells... Try it.
Oh, beautiful. Skål.
The Vasa was Sweden's biggest and meanest warship. It had 2 decks of cannons, but that was a big part of the problem. The weight of the cannons made the ship top-heavy, and that made the ship easy to tip over, sort of like a long-stem wine glass.
She did not have a ballast enough to compensate for the weight of the 2 gun decks and the guns on those decks.
Right from the start, Swedish scientists sprayed the Vasa's wooden remains with polyethylene glycol, a special chemical to help preserve the wood. Today, 27 years later, they're still at it. They're using blow dryers to melt away the excess glycol and to give the ship its final polish. Far from being a plain old wooden ship, the Vasa was decorated with more than 700 wooden sculptures. All this makes for a painstaking, round-the-clock rescue effort. But the Swedes are determined to save the Vasa from rot and ruin.
We have been restoring the Vasa since 1961, actually. It has taken, 10 times as many years as to build the ship. It took only 2.5 years to build the ship.
So here we are entering the great cabin, which was probably intended for the admiral.
For the last several years, Klaus Helmerson has supervised the Vasa's resurrection. Getting a guided tour of the ship with him is a rare treat.
You have a gallery along the side of the quarter of the ship. You see the slit along here. You could put musketeers in a row here, and they'd shoot out through the slit.
Later this year, the Vasa will travel across Stockholm Harbor for the first time since that fatal day in 1628. The ship will be towed several hundred yards and mounted permanently inside this multi-million-dollar museum, now under construction. It will be the Vasa's final journey and one of Sweden's proudest moments. At long last, the ship that couldn't float will have gone the full distance, from national disaster to national treasure.
And we will be back with more from Stockholm, Sweden in just a minute.